Germany's military rules just changed forever? A massive shift in German military policy just happened, and it feels like a glitch in the geopolitical matrix. Germany has officially suspended military approval for men under 45 for certain long-term overseas deployments. This isn't a drill, and it isn't a minor administrative tweak. It is a fundamental restriction on who can serve where. How does a major NATO power suddenly decide that an entire generation of its primary fighting force is suddenly ineligible for the front lines of global stability? The magnitude of this shift is staggering. For decades, the Bundeswehr has relied on a predictable rotation of personnel for international peacekeeping and stability operations. But now, the rules of engagement for human resources have been rewritten. We are looking at a scenario where the very backbone of the military, men in their prime under 45, are being restricted from long-term overseas service. This defies the standard logic of military readiness. Typically, you want your most experienced, physically capable personnel deployed to the most demanding environments. Instead, the doors are being closed on the very people who should be leading the charge. It feels like a sudden, inexplicable halt to the natural progression of military capability in Europe. This restriction targets a specific demographic: men under 45. On the surface, it sounds counterintuitive. Why would a nation limit its most agile personnel? The concern isn't about capability, but about the domestic ripple effects of long-term absence. Skeptics might argue this is a logistical error or a temporary measure, but the implications are much deeper. It touches on the stability of the home front. By limiting these deployments, the military is essentially acknowledging a fracture in the ability to sustain long-term foreign commitments without destabilizing the domestic social fabric. This isn't just a policy on paper. It's a recognition of a growing tension between international duty and domestic continuity that no one wanted to admit was happening. The facts are documented in recent administrative shifts within the German defense apparatus. According to reports regarding personnel management, the suspension of approval for certain long-term overseas assignments for those under 45 is a recorded reality. This isn't a rumor circulating on social media. It is an official adjustment to how the Bundeswehr manages its human capital. The decree specifically addresses the duration and the nature of the deployment. While the full details of every specific unit are often classified, the impact on the broader deployment framework is undeniable. Records indicate a sudden pivot in how the Ministry of Defense views the long-term availability of its core personnel, marking a departure from previous, much more flexible deployment-oriented doctrines. So why is this happening now? The answer lies in the shifting tectonic plates of European security. The geopolitical landscape is becoming increasingly volatile, and Germany is finding itself in a position where it must balance its NATO commitments with the changing domestic reality. There is a growing pressure to maintain a stable, present force within the country while still responding to external threats. This restriction is a symptom of a much larger struggle: how a nation maintains its defensive posture when the very cost of overseas presence, socially and logistically, has become too high to ignore. It is a calculated, albeit shocking, maneuver to manage the sustainability of German military power in an era of permanent crisis. This isn't just a German issue, it's a warning for the entire world. If one of the most significant military powers in Europe begins to restrict its own primary deployment demographic, what does that mean for the future of global stability? We are entering an era where the ability to project power is no longer just about hardware, technology, or training, but about the domestic sustainability of the people behind the machines. As nations grapple with aging populations and shifting social priorities, the era of unlimited, long-term overseas deployment may be coming to an end. We are witnessing the birth of a new, more constrained form of military diplomacy, where the limits of domestic endurance define the boundaries of global influence. The boundaries of global power are being redrawn by the very people meant to defend them. If the story surprised you, there are many more where that came from. Subscribe to Barely Believable to keep discovering the truths that seem impossible. If you want more videos like this, subscribe and follow Barely Believable. See you in the next one.